Okay, here's some comments on the discussion about commentaries and position papers. This was a very interesting discussion. So we move away from our first genre, which is the report, fact-based, informational, purposed genres, to something that is more argument-based. And I wanted to stress that right from the get-go. So, and then there are also some distinctions to be made between commentaries and position papers. Neither of these genres is primarily neither is primarily designed to be to convey information. Information is used to back up a point of view, a slant, or an argument on a particular issue or topic. So when you look at the two pieces that I assigned you to read, one of them, the position paper, which was written for the United Nations, is a much more, it looks like it's more fact-based, but again, it's arguing for a particular point of view. The piece that appeared in The Guardian is a commentary. It's written for a newspaper, and therefore, the sort of requirements for that piece in terms of documenting sources, in terms of representing information in the form of graphs and charts, is very different than the position paper written by the United Nations. In a way, the position paper, even though it focuses on an argument and a point of view, aligns a little more with a briefing, like we talked about in the last set of genres we looked at. Whereas a commentary is purely a piece of opinion that is backed up by a reading of the facts, research, and relevant information on the topic. A person who's writing a piece of newspaper commentary does not have the same obligation, therefore, to represent the facts in the way that a person writing a position paper does. So this is a really important I think, distinction to make. And so, a number of you pointed out the differences in the ways that the two pieces used information and represented factual data. And it's certainly legitimate to say that you preferred one piece over the other. But it would be missing something to say that the piece of newspaper commentary was inferior as a piece of writing simply because it didn't do something. However, I thought that a couple of you pointed out a certain tendency toward a logical flaw. Sarah pointed out that she thought the writer of the Guardian piece had a slippery slope logical fallacy in the piece, and I think that's a fair point. What I would also point to is something that a couple of others of you pointed out, which was that there was a concession and a qualification in terms of the argument that might make us stop short of saying that the argument is based on a fallacy. Okay, a couple more things. I need to put on my glasses so I can see what they are. One thing I thought it was important to note is that there are different strategies for argumentation. So in the position paper, it looks like maybe the typical strategy is to make the larger point and then lay out data to show why that point is the most sensible view. Commentaries, I think, have a wider variety of argumentative strategies, including drawing on personal stories or anecdotes in order to draw a larger point. Position papers are probably more data-driven. Position papers also have more latitude in terms of how they represent sources, in terms of documenting them. I thought also the point about making concessions that Jason brought up was a really good one, which is sometimes especially if you're reaching, and which I think the argument about family planning and climate change is reaching to make that correlation between better family planning information and potentially bringing down carbon emissions through fewer people. That's a big reach, and so it would be more important to qualify an argument like that, as the writer does. Whereas in a position paper, you may not need to concede as much. I also think it's important to acknowledge that when you are conceding, you are acknowledging other points of view. That's what concession is. Concession is saying, I recognize there's another way to look at this. And so when the writer says, doing this, no one thing is going to bring down carbon emissions. The writer is acknowledging that there's a point of view that says this is not going to do the trick in terms of climate change. So that's really important to recognize. Anyway, very good discussion, a lot of sharp reading. Well done, you guys.